running for. Tell us your name so people can hear it fully and that I'm saying it correctly. And what areas people like, what your district is, like what counties, who can vote for you.
Okay. So my name is Sally Busby, and I always say B goes buzz, Busby. And I am in District 78, and that is in Warwick County, which is the city of Newburgh, and then Vanderburgh County, which is part of Evansville. It's in east side of Evansville and north Evansville. So those are the counties, Warwick and Vanderburgh.
Awesome.
But like what I've told everybody is like if you're in Southwest Indiana, we're it's all important, like all
Oh, I
those.
know.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
so many great candidates running in Southern Indiana this time on the Democratic side. Like, because Hunter Collins, he's Southern and Ethan Sweetland May, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we have some really great candidates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys do. And I've talked to both of them. They're great. I really appreciate all of the things you guys are doing down there.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what your background is. I already know, and I wore this little shirt. I was wearing this shirt today just on chance because I was going to work, and I'm a speech therapist for First Steps. So but because of my tire, I was like, I'll just wear it because I know your background.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was a middle school teacher for 15 years and I taught English. And I have a child with severe special needs. So I love speech therapists. We've had speech therapists in our lives for the last 21 years. My son now is 21, and he had speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. Unfortunately, like some of those years, we were in Tennessee, and Tennessee has a waiver system that's frozen, and it has been for a really long time. So moving up
Oh,
to Indiana, we were able to get more services for Jack because that Indiana supports those kiddos with special needs, and we need to continue to do that. Like our vulnerable kiddos and our vulnerable adults who are uh, who are very much loved and part of our community need to be continue to be supported. So I'm passionate about that. My middle school English teacher time was spent in public schools, so I'm passionate about fully funding public schools. And now I teach at the university level. I teach at the University of Evansville in the School of Education. My doctorate was in literacy, language, and culture. So I focus on teaching our pre-service teachers how to teach reading, and those types of skills that we need in the classroom.
that's amazing. We need more literacy specialists. It's just something that's so sorely needed. So that's great. I didn't know you were working at a university. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been there for like 3.5, 4 years.
Oh, that's great. What made you change?
Well, my son. So I had to stop teaching middle school because I couldn't find childcare for my son in the afternoons. So my son has severe special needs. So he is 240 pounds, 6'5", and he is a big kid with not a lot of words and a level of functionality of like a toddler. So he has very big tantrums and attacks his mama most often. So it was very difficult for us to find childcare for him. And that's why I needed to have a more flexible schedule. And that's
Yes.
why I went back to school and did did the university level.
That's awesome. Would you say like that some of the reason you're getting into politics is because of your son?
Of course, yeah. My son and my daughter. So the reason why I was focused on dyslexia studies is because my daughter is a senior in high school and she has dyslexia. Um, and I taught for the last 7 years that I taught gifted ed. And the majority of our kiddos with gifted education services have dual exceptionalities of ADHD or autism as well. So we have kiddos who are supported with IEPs. All of those students, and my daughter included, and my son, are supported through the federal Department of Education. And that I was concerned about as we're seeing, and now we're seeing it firsthand, like the federal Department of Education and those special ed services are being challenged. So we need a stronger, more robust framework of protections at the state Department of Education in order to support our kids with dyslexia, with ADHD, with all of these different exceptionalities and challenges in the classroom, and fully support them with funding as well. So that was one of the reasons, as well as the fact that my daughter wants to be an engineer. And hearing this whole uh, reversal on DEI is a real challenge in the space of engineering, that we do not have enough women who are going into engineering, and that is a concern of mine as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So when I called up the Vandenberg Democratic Party and asked how I could help, um, I was thinking it would probably be something about supporting our young people and getting out that movement of Gen Zers and getting them to the polls and supporting that process. But instead, they said, "Look, we looked up your address and you can run for office, and we need you." No one ran in '78 last time, and so it's important for us to represent and come and fight back. And so I'm a mama bear. I'm fighting for my kids, and I'm fighting for all of our kids.
Yeah, that's great though. I mean, I just being a speech therapist, I agree about we need more funding to support our kiddos who have IEPs. I have a nephew who's on the spectrum and they live in Ohio right now, but I mean, it's a problem everywhere, and it's something that I really care about too, because those are the kids I serve and that, I see. And, I grew up with a kiddo that sounds very similar to your son. And that was just my life. It's just my mom was a physical therapist. And it's just something that's always been near and dear to me because I think kids are important and that just because you have a disability doesn't mean that your life isn't important, and that they need support. It's like they're here, give them support kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your goals. What is your goal for this campaign? Let's start there.
Um, well, so I've noticed, like, my goal, first of all, is to just let people know that they're not alone. In this door knocking that we've done so far, and you might notice that I have this regional Southern accent. I am from Memphis originally, so I do have that Southern accent, and I always start with y'all. But when I'm door knocking, talk to people, and they feel alone, and they feel hopeless, and they do not realize that there are people up and down that street who feel the same way. We are in these silos right now still. There is that loneliness epidemic that is still part of our world. And just to bring people together, I think is super important right now. We have not, and I see Indiana Blue Dot saying hi, Sally. Hi. We have not had a lot of uh, people running, and we had over 50 uncontested races, and most of them were uncontested on Republican side. We've kind of atrophied as a party in the Democratic Party in Indiana, and we need to let people know that we're still out here. We are not demon rats or anything else. We are just caring individuals who want the best for the people who are living right here in our communities. So I just want to get that message out over and over again and let people know um, how they can help, how they can help one another, and how they can help this campaign grow.
I love that. Part of the reason why I started doing these lives before I started doing the political, like the political candidate lives, was just I felt like Indiana didn't have a lot of representation, and people have these really odd. Just as somebody who grew up in Indiana as a Republican, I was raised Republican. Uh, there's this idea that Democrats all believe this thing and these crazy ideas that aren't true. They're just lies. And that's part of the reason I started just having people come on and telling me what they believe, because I think it's important. I think that in order to break down that rhetoric, we just have to be loud about what we actually believe.
Yes. Yes. And the thing is, I mean, I grew up in a household that, at a certain point, my father finally said, you know what, I too am a recovered Republican. My father said that. When I was growing up, he was a Republican. My mom was a Democrat. And I grew up in that house divided. And I think a lot of other people did too. Where people had conversations around the dinner table about the nuances of government and leadership. And I've heard recently this whole thing of a lot of us thought that we could just set and forget our democracy. It was just like, set it and forget it. Like, go on about your day and do your thing. Then all of a sudden we've realized, no, we can't do that. We've got to come out and speak up and continue to move us back into this place where we can have conversations and not um, see ourselves as one side or the other, that we have so many things in common. Um, yeah,
People at the root of it, and I've seen a lot of people talking about this, and just I think it's a good strategy to remember, it's like people are mad about the same things. It's just where that what is causing that issue is different.
yep,
So it's like kind of if we focus on the issues, it's like, okay, I hear you. I hear you're upset about this. Let's talk about how we actually mitigate this, like realistically, kind of a thing.
yeah. So I mean, like it, it is. I mean, just like with Talarico saying, and he's masterful at saying it's not the left or the right, it's the top and the bottom, like, and we are all the bottom. There's no one I know in my life who's in that top 1%. Like, there's so many of us who are just we're just working hard to get by every day. And we
Hoping you don't get a flat tire randomly.
exactly. Yes. And it's just, like right now, I know in Southwest Indiana, and I know all over Indiana, there are other places that are feeling the same way, but our utility rates are outrageous right now. And that is one thing that I hear often with door knocking. There is a woman that shared with me, she's in this small it's a studio apartment, and she cleans Airbnbs for a living in this area. And she is paying her utility bill was over $300 last month. She
For
very
a
self,
studio?
yes, like this is a common bill. And she said, I have to turn on air conditioning. I have to turn on these things sometimes because I'm getting black mold as well. And when she spoke to her landlord about this black mold situation, he said, well, you clean for a living, you clean it. So there's a lot of things that are not being shared or spoken about the just the way that people are treated on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, what is your idea? Because I know utilities are a huge talking point, especially in Southern Indiana, because like from from a house of my size, like it's like 1,600 feet square feet. In Indy, my combined, like if we look at how much my gas and electric is, it's about $300 altogether right now. Now, it's gone up recently, but what I'm hearing from Southern Indiana, it's that your gas is 300 and your electricity is now 300 as well for a house of that size. What can we do going forward to fix this?
Um, so that is one thing that I've been going to these meetings. Like recently, I went to a Sierra Club meeting, and that it was there's so much data that's shared. Like, look, a lot of we have so many coal plants, and this coal is clean phrasing that was really popular in the 90s and continued to get traction. Y'all, it's not that clean, and we're breathing in that coal dust. And there's indications that we have a higher propensity for cancer here. All of the things that it is alarmingly bad. So we have these coal plants, and then uh, we all of that, all of the um, energy source there goes up to North Indiana or even Michigan. So we're making a lot of energy that is not even remaining in our district. So we're breathing in this coal, but it is going out to other areas. CenterPoint is our utility service, and they have some solar farms, but all that solar energy is going to other places as well. So, what could we do? Like, we have utility regulators that are not regulating our utilities fairly, and we need to demand that they do their job. Also, if we could have bills that could be passed to allow folks to go in together to pay into a solar farm system and get that solar energy as a group. And so that would also mitigate the use of our center point. Now, they don't want to do that because they're going to lose money, but it would be really helpful for those of us who are here.
I love that idea. I think that'd be really cool if they can do it, or like even what I think would even be better, like even to do that in Indy, it's like put them on top of the like the parking garages.
Yeah, seriously.
See,
I
like
mean,
put them on top of buildings, like make shade in parks, something
right.
like over parking lots. Like I would want that if it lowered my utility bill. It's like I would totally do that.
And we had a very large grant from the federal government coming in to Evansville to do some of that, that was stripped away from us
Of course it
with,
was.
yeah. But we are doing some of it, uh, that because it's necessary, but not like we were planning. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your views on healthcare. I know that in the state house you can't enact universal health care or anything like that, but do you have ideas in general for Indiana on how to get healthcare costs down?
So I'm gonna say that a lot of this is just first and foremost, like I spent 4 years as a I'm going to get to your question, but I spent 4 years as a doctoral student and I was a researcher, right? Like that's what I love. I love being a researcher. Y'all, I can figure out ways. This is the fun part. Like I think the candidacy is something very different from actually doing the job of being a legislator. And that's the part where it's like, okay, all those things that you wanted to do and you promised would happen, how can we do those things? And one is to put forth bills or talk to those people on the other side of the aisle, try to legislate fairly. But going back to your question, um, it would save us money if we provided better health care for the people in our state. Like we constantly talk, we need to remain on this idea of return on investment. Um, it's, like the return on investment for fully funding public schools is a great return on investment. If we continually provide health better health care, people can go to doctors instead of um, emergency rooms for health care. That saves us money. Like we can have children who are being seen before they get really sick. We can have adults who are being seen before they get really sick. These are just simplistic uh, things that should be done to help the citizens in our state. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we we know better, we should do better. Um,
Absolutely.
so, and that includes mental health. We are behind in this whole thing of mental health. We talk only about mental health if a disaster happens and something happens. That's when we talk about mental health. But we need checkups for people for our mental health as well to ensure that they're doing well.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to mention that people who are healthier, people who have better mental health, miss less days of work
Yep,
and they
absolutely.
are more productive in society. But I like, so your idea as a legislature would be to look at, if we are investing money, what is the return that the citizens, what, the state is going to get, kind of a thing. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. I think that we need to be practical, right? Like we I think that we can do a better job using the money that we take in from taxes from people. I think more of our industries should pay fair taxes. They should pay what taxes as well. But if we are taking people's talent and we have to be good stewards of those funds and ensure that we are providing for our Hoosiers in a way that is going to make us healthier, safer, and remain here in this state.
Yeah, that's a big one, because don't most of our college graduates move out of state?
Yeah, that is something that, as a university professor, I'm concerned about, and it's kind of one of my three important pieces, at least now, just because I see it so often. Kiddos I've taught, some of them cannot find a place in Southwest Indiana fast enough for like seeing prosperity in
Mm.
our in 78. And it's there. We just need to provide more easier pathways to success for our young folks. And then also just making sure that they feel comfortable enough to stay in this state is important.
Yeah, I do think that is something to be said. And I think some of that change is going to need to come from higher up. For example, the AG's office.
Mhm.
Some
Yes.
changes definitely need to be made there to make people feel comfortable in the state of all walks of life. Um, but you're talking about, when you're in the legislature, is there anything that is like, I definitely want to do this when I if I get elected?
So my focus I mean, the thing I know is education. So we have chosen in this next year to remove the cap from the waivers or from the
School vouchers,
school
yeah.
vouchers that we provide families who are most often already sending their kids to private schools. And so that's doing such a disservice to our public schools. Um, and our public schools, that is the thing that I see as a huge return on investment. But when I'm going to uh, schools and I observe student teachers a lot in our schools around in this area. Second grade classrooms should not have 29 students in a second grade classroom. It's just, it is. No, the teacher does not share that on Facebook. She does not let people know that she has 29 students and that every other second grade teacher in that school has 29 students. She will not share it with folks or explain why. She just does the darn thing because that's what teachers do. We just put our heads down and we do it and we work with what we have. But we've started to work with so little for so long. And it does affect how long teachers are able to remain in the classroom. It affects how effective they are in the classroom and in their job, and how they're able to provide those wraparound supports for families and children who maybe aren't getting everything they need outside of that school building. So we can do a better job for our kids. And there should be a cap. If we are going to provide vouchers, there should be a cap on those vouchers at the very least.
At the very least. And I just don't like the idea that the vouchers take away the money from the schools, the public schools, because the schools are already underfunded.
Right.
So
Um,
it's
yes.
just adding insult to injury.
Yes. And like the I got a flyer and I see them on all the on TikTok. I received a flyer from my representative, and surprise, surprise, I'm running against him. But to share that there's been so much more money poured into education in Indiana. That was the flyer. He was so proud of himself. Um, but notice it didn't say public education because it's not. That additional money is not going to be poured into public education. It's going to private schools and it's going to be hurting most often kids with disabilities and those vulnerable students who could succeed if we allow them, if we give them just a chance.
Yeah, it's true. And I just don't understand why people don't want to invest in the public schools and why they think that the private schools are better, because a lot of people don't realize too, private schools don't have to admit you.
Right.
So we're giving this to a private institution, and a lot of times they're religious institutions as well, which then is like, well, that's not separate church and state, and it's a problem. And kids who have disabilities, they don't get the same services at a private school that they would get at a public school. It's usually like a fraction of what they would get at a public school.
Yep. And also, I, so I taught in Tennessee. So we had this problem before Indiana. We're a few years ahead in Tennessee on this. And there was a time where it was a cutoff where the private school could keep the funds that were given, the voucher, and kick the kid out. And I knew that that would be, it was like the eighth week of school or whatever it was, that my class size would go up after that because kids would get kicked out for cussing out the teacher or whatever it is that they did. They would be out, but public schools still had to take them. But we didn't have any money attached to that kid then because the private school had been able to keep that voucher money. Now, right now, Indiana still has it so that the kid and the voucher money remains. But my guess is that could also be something that would be a concern, is that the money is kept and the kid is kicked out.
That is just not okay. And to me, that's just stealing. I feel like if we're going to require kids to go to school, then the money should be going to the public school. It shouldn't be split up. it's like if we're going to split it up and provide voucher program, give it to people who actually need it and for whatever reason. It's like I don't want people to feel stuck either, but the
Right,
people who are already going to private school do not need that money. That is a waste of our tax dollars.
right, right. Um, it is. And a lot of time and like I I'm sure some people have maybe not heard this. There's the blueberry story of the guy who made his ice cream, and this was in the 80s, and he made ice cream. His best flavor of ice cream was blueberry ice cream, and he was thinking, you know what, I could do a better job leading these schools, like these schools do not get it. I'm a businessman. Let me come in here and help them figure stuff out. And he was giving them this talk and talking to them. And a teacher raised her hand and she said, what do you do if you get rotten blueberries? And he was like, I throw them out. And then somebody said, well, what do you do if you get blueberries that aren't ripe enough? Well, throw them out. And they started yelling, we teach all the blueberries. We teach all the blueberries. And at that point, his mind shifted and realized school is not a corporation. School is not a business. It is a different like thought process of you take everyone where they are and you help them. And it is not the business model that some people think it is. A lot of people haven't been in school since they were in schools maybe 50 years ago. And they don't realize what challenges teachers are dealing with right now
You
in K
know,
schools. And that's another concern. We have some really, Vanita Becker has been a wonderful advocate. She's a Republican and she is my state senator, but she's been a wonderful advocate for schools. She is asked many times to be on the education committee, and she's been denied that request because she would vote for kids.
that is just so infuriating though, because well, for the Republican Party to say they care about kids and then to do that is just actions speak louder than words. And it just makes me mad because it's like you want all these kids here. Well, they're here now. Provide for like you have to help them learn. We can't just not educate them.
Right, right. Um, and if we're not, then they need to just say um, that they're not planning on educating some students. Uh,
Which seems to be their plan because, as I pointed out, when they continue to try to dismantle the Department of Education, we know what happens when we are not forced, when the schools are not forced to take care of these kids, especially when they're underfunded. What will happen is that not all kids will be educated, some kids will be institutionalized, and we will have poorer outcomes. We will have less tax revenue because not as many people are educated.
right, right, exactly. Um, it's it doesn't happen immediately. Having that return on investment doesn't happen when you're having a kindergartner move to first grade, but eventually you see the benefit of having fully funded public schools.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And I think that Indiana sees what happens when you don't have fully funded schools. It starts going downhill very quickly. But let's move on to some other areas here. Tell me about your thoughts about reproductive freedom.
Um, so that's another reason why I started running. I have a daughter, full stop. So uh, there's there needs to be, we have all of us need to have bodily autonomy, um, and I, to make a decision what you want to do with your body, I think is really it's it's kind. I do not understand. Um, I think that's pretty much where it is. Uh, like we have to allow women and doctors to make decisions that are in the best interest for that one woman. Um, and then we also let's just like consider the fact that um, if if people were not in positions where uh, they were struggling financially and cortisol levels were up all the time, um, then maybe it would be possible. I think that there's this desperate need on the other side to ensure that there are no abortions. And I get it. Like that is is an honorable thing. Um, but there are reasons why some women do need to have an abortion. Um, and there are health risks for a woman. There are many things, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't know those. Uh, but then there also we need to consider the fact that families are struggling to get by, um, and that says something when a country is in a place where families are thinking, how can I afford a baby? Because I cannot put food on the table for the children I have right now. Um, what does that say about us as a country? Um, right there. So if the folks on the other side want more babies, then we need to ensure that people are housed. We need to ensure that people um, are able to buy food and to keep their lights on.
Yeah, I agree. And some of those medical reasons, like there are medical necessities, and this is where having an abortion ban like Indiana does gets dangerous, right? Because it's like October 2023, we had an Indiana mom who had a toddler who was pregnant again. The Unfortunately, in her second trimester, the baby passed away, and they she needed an abortion, and they had to wait until her life was in danger, which is subjective. So the longer you wait, and it's like, where is that line? It's all a gray area. That's why we need to trust doctors,
Right.
because they waited too long and her organs started to shut down from sepsis and she died. And now this man, the dad, is a single father, lost his wife, lost his child that he was supposed to have, and it's just tragic. And these are the things that really matter, because there are other people who get pregnant, find out they have cancer. You can't be pregnant and do chemo. You can't be pregnant and do radiation. So telling a woman she can't do that is 100% saying your life is not as important as the potential life growing inside you that may not even be born.
Right. Right. Um, and I think you hit on something, just trusting doctors, like trusting our scientific community. They have the knowledge. We are kind of gutting that funding right now, but they they know what they are talking about, and they also are going to counsel with their patient. So, I mean, like for instance, my best friend found out she had cancer when she was pregnant uh, with her son. She made the decision to have Loudon, baby Loudon. I took off many days of school so that I could cuddle with baby Loudon so that she could then do chemo. That was what her decision was. Mothers and doctors make those decisions. We as a
Absolutely.
community should not.
No, I agree. I was in a sorority in college, and one of my sorority sisters, she was pregnant, and she found out she also had cancer. She made the same decision to have her child, but as a result, that she did lose her life because of it. So again, that was her choice, though, and it should, for better or worse, it should be no one's choice but that woman and her doctors.
Right.
That's it. It's
Yep.
simple. So, but let's talk a little bit more about Indiana's budget, because we have a governor and a current legislature that are telling us we don't have money to fix our roads. However, we had the lottery and the casinos come in, and that money was supposed to be used for the roads. And then they introduced wheel taxes, and that was supposed to be used for the roads. All of these taxes have, and we have extremely high registration fees, and yet our roads are still terrible. We are generally the butt of the joke of semi-truck drivers on all social media because our roads are so bad. And now Mike Braun wants to turn our interstates into roads. Where is this money going? Do we need these toll roads, or do we need just a whole audit of Indiana government and how they're spending their
Yes. Ding, ding, ding. The second.
money?
I mean, and I think that was an ask at the very end of the last session, was a request by the Democrats for that total audit. It was ignored at that point, and I think that's one of the reasons why we are pushing so hard to ensure that we do not have a supermajority in the House, because it is harder to ignore one side of the aisle when the other side is not in a supermajority. So the request for an audit is absolutely needed. The Ways and Means Committee, um, just an oversight of over $1.5 billion. Like what's going on? Yeah.
Somebody's misappropriating is my, just like going through all of the stories and going through all of the expenditures that are happening. The math doesn't math. Let's just
Right.
put it that way. So I'm happy to hear you say that. We already talked about utility bills. Um, do you think we need to expand our voter access here in Indiana?
Well, I mean, we have the lowest voter turnout rate, and most of the time as of any state. We have people who care about their communities. Hoosiers care, but they're not voting. So what's going on there? Like, do we feel like our votes, do we feel like people are representing us? Do we feel like our votes matter? And so I believe that, and do we know who's going to be on that ballot? Are we being provided the correct information and enough information? Like the Secretary of State, we have some people who are running for Secretary of State right now that would provide that information for us. It's super important to be well informed, but also feel as though our votes matter. So that voter turnout is discouraging, and absolutely, we need ways to support people to sign up to vote.
Yeah, in Indiana's, I think it was the last session, they decided to take away college students' ability to use their college ID to vote in elections. Do you agree with that, or do you think that should be reversed?
I think that should be reversed.
Great. What are your thoughts on the LGBTQIA plus community? Should Indiana be making laws one way or another? If so, what kind of laws would you like to see?
So this is the thing, that going back to ensuring that people feel safe here in this state and ensuring that our young people want to remain here, it has to be a safe place for everyone. And it has to be a place that sees and values and honors everyone. Um, this is not going to be the case if we ignore some people. Um, and people's lives and are valuable. And we want to ensure that people are also safe. So, what if that looks like ensuring that we have laws that support people? Then yes, absolutely.
Great. Yeah, I've just popped into my head just now. I'm like, I wonder if Indiana's constitution might need to be changed to be more inclusive and ensure more protections for people that maybe it currently doesn't name. That's a thought in my head. I know that's harder to do, but it's just a thought I had. But we are coming to the end of the hour. I wanted to give you the opportunity. Is there any topic or issue that we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
Um, First of all, you've done such a great job asking questions. Thank you, especially since we were not this was right just spur of the moment. So thank you so much for making this easy.
Of course.
I I think that it's one thing that I've tried to get out on TikTok, and just to people in general, is that we can. I I hate to use the word fight because the connotation is not right.
I
Um,
agree.
but we can continue
Resist.
to push back. Yeah, resist in some ways that that honorable, normal Hoosiers are going to continue to do. Like this is, and we can also um, listen with an open heart and help people bring people back. Like we are the big tent party for a reason. And we've got to ensure that people have safe ways to come back from being lied to, from being manipulated for years and years. Um, and that I think we're going to have more people starting to say, oof, this no longer feels good to me. I think I have been lied to. Um, and they have. Right now, my husband's parents do not speak to us. And I'm sure they are super ashamed that I am running for office because they are MAGA, very much so. And they believe in a way that does not allow them to see this side as what we're doing is just we're trying to make the world a better place. But I think at some point they will. I've looked into livingroomconversations.com and just ways to encourage people to talk together and listen to one another. We've got to continue to do that in order to bring our country back from this brink where people have like been lied to so much that it's almost like we don't recognize them anymore.
It's not just about being lied to. I think that some people forget that there is literal brainwashing that's happened. And sometimes when we go in at it hot, go hard, you're never going to get through.
Yes.
But asking questions, and you mentioned a website that I had not heard of, Living Room Conversations.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that about how to have those kind of conversations? Okay, I'll check that out. But yeah, like I talk about asking questions because that's more likely to say, oh, well, what about this situation?
Yes.
Is more likely to cause somebody to reflect on what they believe than if you say, no, you're wrong, blah, 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 because that's not going to get you anywhere.
It's not. Um, and and these, just like, like all Hoosiers, we all, it's a valuable, they're all valuable. And I mean, I've been knocking on doors of folks who have asked me to get off their yard and lawn right away as soon as they find out I'm a demon rat. But, I am halfway done petting their dog. And so I have to stay there, and just keep on asking them, aren't you frustrated with your utility rates right now? Aren't you frustrated with this? Because we are all in this together.
Yeah.
So we're just going to keep on trying.
Keep on pushing.
Yeah.
So, but you are a grassroots candidate. Where
Yes.
can people donate money to you? I'm assuming you're on Act Blue, but what is your campaign website?
Yeah, my campaign website is sallyforindiana.com. And there you
The
could,
number four or FOR?
that, thank you so much. I always forget that. I'm an English teacher, so it's FOR, but
Okay.
maybe I also need to get that number 4 as well. So that I can have either one, but it's Sally FOR
Okay.
Indiana.com.
Great. And what social medias are you on so people can follow you?
Yep. Um, Sally, I'm TikTok. This is me. I do all the TikTok stuff, Sally dot Busby here. And then I'm on Facebook. Um, just I'm on Instagram, and Facebook and Instagram, I'm Sally Monroe Busby. And that's me. That's I'm just posting campaign
On
stuff.
on your
But then,
personals?
on my
Okay.
personal. But then also, I have former students who are kind of leading the charge of doing the Instagram and the Facebook Sally for Indiana.
Okay.
And they are doing those. So they're doing such a great job creating images and all the things for those platforms, because I can't do it all.
No, you can't,
Yep.
not especially if you're working.
Right.
So, all right. Well, again, thank you so much for coming. If you don't follow Sally, please go follow her. And if you have even just a dollar, a few dollars, whatever you can give, please go give to Sally as a grassroots candidate. That means she doesn't take any money from corporations or PACs. So that means that she will work for you instead of corporations who have bought her campaign, which is the preferred method in my opinion. So go check her out. Make sure to share her information with your friends, especially if you live in her district. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope. I would just like to say hi, Cade. He is so wonderful. I just really appreciate all these comments here. It's just Ryan made the point of the fact that art teachers have been let go, and they're replacing them with $17 people. All these comments here, it's so important that we share what is happening in our communities. So thank you for sharing those things. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for sharing with us and for running. I know it's not easy, but keep pushing. And I'm excited to see where you go from here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a great week, everyone.